If we're at 28 or anywhere near it, and we're at 50% with Hispanic, and the poll shows we're higher, just cancel the election. Just say Trump wins automatically, because that's a whole... Now they're going to say, see, now when I say that, you know, we have fun, we're laughing and kidding, but when I say that, he's a fascist, he announced tonight he wants to cancel the election. They actually had, you know, when I imitate Biden, you can't find his way off a stage, you can't put two sentences together, right? Can't put two sentences together. Here's a teleprompter, he doesn't know where the hell the teleprompter's there. And the nice part about me, I only use the teleprompter. The average, I think they say it averages about 9%. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a guy that didn't really need the teleprompter? Isn't that nice, though? Isn't that nice? But, you know, the dangerous thing I have, Al and Steve, is when I joke a little bit. You know, we got to joke. The country's in such trouble. If you don't have a sense of humor, we'd never get by. But you got to sort of make a little bit of fun. And I sort of imitate his speaking, and I go, bye-bye. He has no idea where the hell he is, right? Or I'll show him where he can't find the stairs. Now, we have a stair there, we have a stair there, we have one here, we have one here. They're all over the place. And he can never find this. I think Secret Service does. You always have this young, handsome guy run onto the stage, grab his arm, and pretend like it's normal to be doing that, right? But the biggest thing is when I do it, they sometimes put me on and they say Trump couldn't find his way off the stage because they are the most dishonest people on earth, other than guys like Adam Schiff and, you know, Shifty Pencil Neck. Pencil Neck. He's a marvel. No, he's a structural marvel. He has a neck, and his head is like a watermelon, and his neck. And how that neck can hold up that big, oversized, ugly head is hard to believe. No, it's true. It's true. Big head. It's like your finger on a basketball. Some of these guys, they spin it. No, he's a terrible guy. Think of it. Think of this, Schiff. So they make up the Russia hoax. It's a, you know, and by this time it was found out, and blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows it's a hoax, a scam. And, you know, it was originally used as a one-day deal to show that Hillary Clinton lost because of Russia, because they were embarrassed because they weren't supposed to lose, but they lost. And so they made up this that it was Russia. I said, Russia? What the hell did Russia have to do with it? And I meant that. So then it got carried away. It ended up being 2.5 years because it got picked up by the fake news. They knew it was a scam. Got picked up by but think of it. Adam Schiff made it up, along with Hillary Clinton and some others, DNC, Democrats, and they made up this scam. Dangerous scam, very dangerous. Amazing that, you know, fortunately I knew Putin very well, and we had a little bit of a relationship going. He couldn't believe. He said, what the hell is going on with your country? They make up this scam, and then he comes out of a room. So he knows it's made up, and he has a news conference with a lot of press, and I'm watching this, and he goes, Donald Trump Jr. will go to prison because of what he did with Russia. Now, talking about my son is going to go to prison because of something they know is a total hoax. It's not like they believed it was maybe true. They knew it was because they made it up. It was a scam. It was written. No, think of it. And he's saying, think of it, you have a son. And I called up my son. I said, are you okay? He says, yeah, I don't know anything about Russia. What's going on? He knew nothing about Russia. This guy in the fourth row right here, he knows more about Russia than my son knew. But think how bad you have to be as a person to do that. So he's got a scam. They know it's a scam. It's a made-up story to try and justify why she lost, okay? She lost because she had no personality. She lost for a lot of reasons. No, they said she's... Well, that too. I would say this. She's evil. That's interesting. But what kind of a human being would say we're going to put somebody in prison because of something that we made up that we know is a phony thing? They're bad people, right, Steve? Bad people, you know? They're bad people.
California is recognized.
I thank the gentlewoman. I rise in support of Representative Ocasio-Cortez amendment. The GAO's expertise and technical capacity are critical to Congress's oversight. This amendment by my colleague gives GAO access to important information in the IC's possession that is necessary for the conduct of GAO's responsibilities, while also ensuring the protection of sensitive sources and methods. It strikes the right balance between security, transparency, and needed oversight. It also imposes confidentiality restrictions, clarifies the GAO officers and employees, like their IC colleagues, are subject to penalties for unauthorized disclosure, and requires the Comptroller General to consult with the Director of National Intelligence to establish protections against such unauthorized disclosures. In sum, the amendment will enhance congressional oversight of the IC in a manner that protects our national security. I want to thank my colleague for offering it, and I urge a yes vote and yield back.
California yields back. The gentlewoman from New York continues to reserve.
I reserve, yes.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, every time the Chairman Schiff rises to speak on a bill about intelligence and security and holding the President accountable, I get excited hoping that we're going to hear about that evidence of collusion and all the other investigations that were conducted in this House over the past year. I'll yield back, absolutely.
Will the gentleman yield? Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, yield.
Well, let me ask the gentleman, are you aware, just by way of illustration, that the President's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, secretly met with an agent of Russian intelligence and provided Russian intelligence with internal campaign polling data, as well as strategic insights about their strategy in key battleground states? Are you aware of that?
I think everyone's aware of every bit of information that you all have tried to peddle over the past 4 years.
Let me ask you, are you aware that while the Trump campaign chairman was providing internal polling data, that Kremlin intelligence was leading a clandestine social media campaign to elect Donald Trump? Are you aware of that?
I think we see every day. Facebook just announced that Russia was trying to do a Facebook campaign in Ukraine, if I remember reading that correctly. Mr. Schiff,
would you like me to go on?
To a question from me?
Would you like me to go on?
What would you yield to a question?
Well, I'm asking you, would you like me to, you asked me to present you with some of the information?
No, I think it's great. Are you aware of President Biden's son Hunter's art dealings? Are you aware of the President's son's dealings with in Congo with the cobalt mine? Well, are you aware of the dealings in Ukraine?
To get to the gentleman's question, I am aware of President Trump's son meeting secretly in Trump Tower in New York with a Russian delegation with the purpose of receiving dirt on Hillary Clinton, which the Russian delegation represented was part of the Russian government's effort to help elect Donald Trump in 2016. And I'm aware that Donald Trump Jr., said in response to that Russian offer of dirt on Donald Trump's opponent that he would love it, suggested the best timing would be in late summer, and had a secret meeting in Trump Tower. And when asked about that secret meeting, both the President and his son lied about it. Are you aware about those facts?
I think that everyone's seen all the information, again, that you all have peddled. I'm curious if you would like to take a wager on which president's child, which president's son, at the end of the day, once we have the gavel, will be the most security risk to our nation.
So I'm happy to continue to outline the contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia, their solicitation of Russian help in the election, the former president's effort to coerce Ukraine into helping him cheat in the election. I would happy to go chapter and verse if you would like me to use your time that way. Right now, though, the subject of this amendment is to allow the General Accounting Office, the GAO, to help Congress oversee aspects of the intelligence community. But if you're more interested,
I reclaim my time.
The gentleman has reclaimed his time.
They've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of tax dollars on trying to peddle a lot of wrongdoing in the previous administration. This bill is all about the previous administration. Every speaker on their side of the aisle has mentioned Donald Trump's name numerous times. Every speaker. It's time for the majority party to focus on governing and get over their obsession with Donald Trump.
Mr. Chairman, once again, we hear an effort to reinvent January 6th, this time as people expressing peacefully their disagreements with the government. January 6th was not a peaceful expression of differences with the government. It was a massive, violent attack on the Capitol with the object of overturning a free and fair election. Mr. Jordan cut off debate on my amendment to hold him in contempt, so we couldn't discuss what his role was, why he was subpoenaed, and whether he should be held to the same standard as a private citizen. And while he said quite erroneously that he was not required to testify, either because he took issue with the object of the investigation or because the speech and debate clause, as Representative Lofgren pointed out, that does not apply to subpoenaing a member of this body. Let's remember who did step forward, and let's ask ourselves not why he was compelled and refused, but why he didn't volunteer to come forward, why he was unwilling to share his information, why it was even necessary to subpoena him. After all, so many others did their constitutional duty. Republican Speaker in Arizona, Rusty Bowers, talked about how he was compelled by his oath, by his faith, by the Constitution, to do his constitutional duty, to refuse the former president's entreaties to overturn the election. And he showed his devotion to our country and the Constitution by coming and testifying. Jim Jordan would not. Brad Raffensperger, the Republican Secretary of State in Georgia, did his constitutional duty both to protect the vote in Georgia, to ignore the former president's demands that he find 11,780 votes that didn't exist, but also to come and testify, to share with the country what he knew, but not Jim Jordan. Cassidy Hutchinson, a staff member at the White House, showed extraordinary courage to come forward, showed her devotion to her country and Constitution, and came forward and testified, but not Jim Jordan. Capitol Police officers who were beaten and gouged that day, they came forward and testified, but not Jim Jordan. White House counsel, Republican White House counsel came forward and testified, but not Jim Jordan. Unless we forget why the committee wanted Jim Jordan, let's look at our referral to the Ethics Committee over his failure to come forward for guide as to why we wanted his testimony. Representative Jordan was a significant player in President Trump's efforts, we wrote. He participated in numerous post-election meetings in which senior White House officials, Rudy Giuliani and others, discussed strategies for challenging the election. Chief among them claims that the election had been tainted by fraud. On January 2nd, 2021, Representative Jordan led a conference call in which he, President Trump, and other members of Congress discussed strategies for delaying the January 6th joint session. During that call, the group also discussed issuing social media posts encouraging President Trump's supporters to march to the Capitol on January 6th. An hour and a half later, President Trump and Representative Jordan spoke by phone for 18 minutes. Yes, we wanted him to come testify about what he discussed with President Trump for 18 minutes. And no, Jim Jordan has never told this body why he was unwilling to tell the country about that conversation in the run-up to a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol. Or why he spoke with White House staff about, as we wrote, the prospect of presidential pardons for members of Congress. He was unwilling to say why he thought pardons for members of Congress might be necessary. And today, he's unwilling to tell us why there should be a different standard for a member of Congress who is subpoenaed than for a private citizen, and why the standard for a private citizen should be so much higher. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle say that's not a germane question. We love to hide behind germaneness when we really don't want to answer the root of the matter. And the root of the matter is, why is Hunter Biden's failure to appear worthy of a criminal contempt, but the chairman of the Judiciary Committee's unwillingness to comply with a congressional subpoena gets nothing more than a shrug? That's really the question before this committee today. And so far, there is no answer. I yield back.